Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Movie Review Podcast. I am Faizel John Mohammed, your co-host, and with me is...
Brandon Reines.
And today we are delving into Enter the Dragon. This is one of those ones where I always want to ask people how they came to the movie because I feel like it like inevitably holds like a special place in everyone's heart for different reasons. Like for example, this is the first movie that my dad and I would watch together. We would not like I think Fist of Fury was the first one we watched together, but like Bruce Lee movies in general was a thing that my dad and I had.
Yeah, I think like especially with this is Bruce Lee's like most famous movie. This is kind of what got him popular in America. I bet you that probably like the vast majority of people, but like people that weren't around or fans of that type of movie in the 70s, let's say people born after that time, this was probably their first exposure to Bruce Lee. They were probably unfamiliar with his other movies. So this was the first Bruce Lee movie I watched, and that's kind of what got me into him. And even as I was watching it, I was kind of thinking, I was talking with my buddy Adam about how the movie, regardless of like your thoughts on it, but the movie was such a sensation that Bruce Lee, even to this day, even though he's been dead for like over 40 years, like he's known as a martial artist. Like he's probably bigger than Jackie Chan. He's probably the biggest like martial artist in the world. And he didn't even live to see that movie released. He died before it came out. Say he didn't even really, his dream was to kind of get beyond being famous in Hong Kong and be famous worldwide. And he finally reached his dream and then died like right as it happened. So it's kind of
Well,
kind
because
of a tragic tale.
this movie came out 6 days after his death.
Yeah, like and then he became like he just exploded into the public consciousness to
Do
the
you
point where he's still well known to this day.
Do you have a favorite Bruce Lee mythology? There's tons of stories floating around about what he could do or anything like that. My favorite one is he could like if you threw a handful of rice in the air, he could like grab individual grains of rice with a set of tooth chopsticks. Like that's how fast he was. Like I don't know if that's true or not, but
Yeah, I've heard. I grew up hearing all sorts of getting increasingly ridiculous. I think a lot of it was mythology. I think a lot of it was that he died in his prime. If he had been alive today, he'd be in his 80s, and we would have seen him slowly decline in ability. And then the mythology, he'll be kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger now, right? He's not what he used to be because like who is? But
yeah,
he
he got
died in
old.
his prime. Bruce Lee died in his prime. He died at his best. So all these legends grow from him about how he was this invincible machine where I'm probably gonna catch a lot of flack from Bruce Lee fans, but I don't think he was that tough in real life. Like he was probably way tougher than the average person, but he was still a small guy, and he was primarily a movie actor and a performer. So he could kick a lot of ass, but he was not the invincible legend that he was portrayed to be.
Well, fair enough. I think, well, and this may be like rose-colored glasses from like just again, I grew up around a bunch of Bruce Lee fans. So like, I think he was about it though. Like, I think he was one of those like, because he came up with his own martial arts philosophy called Wing Chun.
No.
Jeet Kune Do. Jeet Kune Do. And he was like he studied it very deeply. Do you know the autopsy when he was found dead, they found weed in the system?
Yeah, that was one of his cause of death has also been a mystery. Some people say
Well,
he like
yeah.
died of well, I remember like when I was a kid, it was like, oh, Bruce Lee died from smoking marijuana, so don't smoke marijuana. And it's like, how do you die from
It was
smoking?
actually the opposite, because weed is really good for as an anti-inflammatory, and it's less taxing on the liver than ibuprofen is. So he'd be working out all these heavy like workouts, and those like tend to give a lot of inflammation in your joints and in your muscles. And so he just apparently, this is things I heard, but like he would just eat chunks of hash that would then like work the anti-inflammatory in his system and make his system like feel a little better rather than like taking handfuls of ibuprofen.
Yeah, it could be. I think there's been but back when I was younger, I was super into Bruce Lee. Like I read his whole Jeet Kune Do book, and I read that like his official cause of death on his death certificate was death by misadventure.
Oh, I always thought it was an aneurysm or like a blood cell went
I
off in
don't know.
his
I heard
brain.
that like there was things like that. Where he had his weed in his system, but he had an aneurysm, and but they never like it wasn't like is that what killed him? Like I could be maybe I should have read on Wikipedia, but I don't know if that was ever settled because I've heard
No, no, it
different
wasn't.
things. But
Well, because at one point they were like the triads did it, because compare in relation to this movie and Game of Death, I believe, because Bruce Lee had in China, in Hong Kong, Fists of Fury, which was released as, oh god damn it, I gotta look this up. But it was there was some weirdness about it because one was released as another. So I think in total there were four Bruce Lee movies. Two that he released in Hong Kong and two that he released in the States, if I'm
I
right.
thought there was three in Hong Kong, and then Enter the Dragon was the
Oh
first.
yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot about the Big Boss.
Yeah,
Right.
Big
So
Boss.
he had the Big Boss, and then he had Fists of Fury, right? Because the Big Boss was released as Fists of Fury in the U.S. So then when he made Fists of Fury in Hong Kong, that was released as the Chinese Connection in the U.S.
Okay.
And then he did The Way of the Dragon. And then after The Way of the Dragon, people in Hollywood noticed that he was getting big in Hong Kong. So they were like, "Hey, come over here, make a movie with us." And like that, there's a whole story about how they fucked him. I assume you know all about the kung fu like incident and David Carradine and like that
Yeah.
all that. So like they brought him over to make the movie, but the story is that when he came over to make the movie Enter the Dragon, he started getting like he broke existing relationships with the triad bosses who controlled the movie industry in Hong Kong by coming over here, and so then they came after him is the idea because he was like making his own movie and forging his own ways without the triads.
Uh, yeah, it was probably just another. Again, it's like there could have been a certain element to it, but like,
Conspiracy is fun to engage in
yeah.
sometimes. I'm sure none of it is like 100% true, but like I do love like because if there's just a little bit of ambiguity in there, that opens up a whole rift of like you can put anything in there that you want.
Yeah, I think honestly, like all the legends around Bruce Lee are probably like more entertaining than the actual movies he made. Like
I
even in
agree.
high school, I remember all a bunch of my buddies were super into Bruce Lee and just like all these things they were saying about how, hey, you kick anyone's ass. He's the toughest guy in the world. He has borderline magical powers, and it's
What do you think of him as an actor?
I think he's kind of honestly he's like all the other martial artist actors. None of them are that good, but
Very wooden and very like intense is that he
yeah.
hits one emotion, intense.
But it works. It's like that's what
It
Bruce Lee
does.
is. Like I wouldn't want his martial arts to suffer for him to try to be a better actor. He's like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? He's not a great actor. He just has huge presence on screen, and that's kind of what you want. You kind of want that little bit of bad acting from them because if it was any better, it would lose the like coolness of just him being Arnold or him being Bruce Lee.
You know what? I agree with you because Michael J. White is like, I think he's a pretty good actor and he's one of these martial arts actors, but I think that's probably to his detriment, is
Yeah.
because he's a good actor.
Yeah,
He's
he's
not,
actually like a really good fighter, but I don't really know him as that. Like I think of him as a an actor who does action movies. I don't think of him as a martial artist.
yeah, and yeah, I agree. I think that's to his detriment. But like, he was the guy who played the Spawn in the first go
Yeah,
around,
he plays roles that aren't martial artists, whereas Bruce Lee was like the same guy in every movie.
specifically a martial
Yeah,
artist.
like he
Yeah.
didn't have even Arnold has roles where he's not an action guy.
Or even in this same movie, Jim Kelly. He was a karate champion. I'll always know him as an action movie star, like as an actor who was in action movies rather than like a karate martial artist, even though that's what he was, is like a martial artist first.
Yeah.
I think this was Jim Kelly's second movie, but he was like an international karate champion.
So let's get into the movie. It's what did you like? What are your overall thoughts on it?
There's a so obviously we just went down the whole line of talking about the history of the people involved in it and like the history of how the movie came to be a little bit. All of that, like you said, is way more interesting than the movie. The movie is good, but you know, the plot is I've seen this plot done a couple of times, and I think it's probably like spun from Enter the Dragon, like Street Fighter, the animated movie, and a bunch of these other kinds of like
Yeah,
martial arts
blood
inspired movies.
sport is
Yeah, like there's a competition happening on the island, and all the best fighters in the world come to the island to fight in the competition to see who's the best. And also, there's some fuckery going on in the background.
yeah.
So the plot isn't anything special beyond that. I guess it did inspire all these other plots, so it must have been special in that regard. It's an okay movie. It's not bad. It's not good. It's not great. It's okay in my opinion.
Well, I think you're not giving enough credit personally, but I kind of
Fair
know what you
enough.
mean though. It's one of those things where like if you just heard, especially if you hung out in like Bruce Lee fan circles, the movie would be built up so much in your mind that when you saw it, you'd be like,
It
this is
wouldn't
what
live up
everyone's
to
been
it.
talking about for like 50 years now. It's like it's not that great, but if you just take it as like a martial arts movie, it's really cool. It does have like if you watch his earlier Hong Kong ones, I think it's almost superior to them in a way, but it does have that element. It's kind of like when John Woo came to America, where he like loses some of his like let's say spirit. It's
It
like
loses
he loses
something
his
in
edge.
translation. I know exactly what you mean. Like
It's more
in the case,
Americanized.
yeah, in the case of John Woo, that's exactly what it is. Is like I think Hollywood producers assume we're all idiots, and we've never seen like a movie outside of America. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? And like, so they're like, listen, if you're gonna come over here and direct, you can't do any of this fancy Chinese shit. We need it to be hamburgers. You better.
yeah.
And like, I think that's wrong. I think the American audience and like any movie going audience, like, aren't idiots. We can like, yeah. So I agree with you. Like when Hollywood producers bring things over here, they specifically try to Americanize it because they assume otherwise we won't get it.
Which is funny because the movie, it's still like 99% Asian cast.
Mhm. Well, and
Like
I was gonna say that's one of the things I was gonna bring up is while I was researching this movie, I read because we were talking about this last episode about how PG-13 is like the scatter shot, and you're trying to grab as many audience share as you can. That was the thinking behind the casting of this movie is we're gonna get an Asian guy, we're gonna get a white guy, we're gonna get a black guy, and that's gonna hit our entire
yeah,
audience share.
yeah.
Nowadays, that would be called DEI. Then it was called good business.
Yeah, it was funny because yeah, like actually there's two white guys. There was the dude with the beard and the scarf.
John Saxon.
Yeah. No, John Saxon was the other guy. Remember the guy
Oh
with
yeah.
the beard?
Oh right.
His name escapes me, but yeah, but it's definitely like an Asian movie, but it lost some of its nationality or something. Like the other ones, like the earlier ones, it's like yeah, that's like a Hong Kong story, but you kind of like that. It was like refreshing, and this one you could kind of see the Americanization like leaking in, and it didn't
Hmm.
affect it that much because it's still Bruce Lee kicking ass and everything. So I still think it's a great story. But the thing is, like if you're telling a martial arts story, like you are limited with what you could tell.
Because you have to make room for the action
Yeah,
scene.
yeah, you have to have two guys fighting each other with martial arts a whole lot.
That's why people are here. That's why people bought the ticket.
So it makes sense. Like, how about it's a tournament, and that way we can have different guys fighting each other. But the whole movie can't be that. We have to have something else. So how about the guy? How about the head guy is also like a drug lord, and Bruce Lee has to like bring down his organization. So bam, you got
Also, the plot of Mortal Kombat. I just
yeah.
keep remembering like all these movies that
Yeah,
it's the
more it's
plot
Mortal
of.
Kombat's say a bit more metaphysical, but it's yeah, it's all the same type of thing. But what it's like, no one's watching it just for the plot, right? It's
No.
you're
Yeah.
watching it for the martial art, which is another thing too I find funny about martial arts movies is that like I don't like it when martial arts movies have guns mixed in because
Yeah.
it's but at the
Although,
same time it doesn't make like if this guy is like an international drug lord, you're telling me that like not one guy on this island owns a firearm?
what would you consider The Matrix? Would you consider that an action film or a martial arts
Oh,
film?
it's 100% action film.
Action film?
Yeah.
Okay. All
It
right.
has like a little bit of martial arts, but the thing is, Enter the Dragon is all martial arts. And
That
that's
is
one of the things I
true.
didn't like about Bloodsport. Kickboxer, the first Kickboxer.
Was that also with Jean-Claude Van Damme or was that with
Yeah,
someone else?
It
Yes.
was Jean-Claude Van Damme, but it was like mainly a martial arts movie. But then they had scenes with like cops fighting bad guys with guns and stuff. And it's like, like I like gun movies, but I like them to be separate. It's like a martial arts movie should be a martial arts movie. As soon as you start having like mixing them, that's my personal taste, is it doesn't seem right. See, on
What
this
about
one,
Equilibrium and Gun Kata? What is your opinions on Gun Kata?
Gun Kata, I'm not even sure what that is.
Have you never seen Equilibrium? Oh, my friend.
I don't think
Next
so.
time we're ready for a terrible movie review, we can pop in Equilibrium.
Done. Well, the thing is, at least with Enter the Dragon, they have a good reason why there's no guns, is that the head bad guy
On
is
the
too
island.
afraid of being assassinated that there's a strict no gun policy. So it's like, okay, one line of dialogue, they cleared up that plot point.
Which is like, yeah, that always brings me to that. Like, there's one scene in Thank You for Not Smoking, which is a movie that will live in my brain forever. When they're like talking about it being in space and they're gonna like do a smoking promo in space, and someone's like, "Wait a minute, you can't smoke in space. There's no air." And then Aaron Eckhart is like, "Easy, one line of dialogue. Thank God they invented da da da. Changes everything." And that's what I always think of when I watch movies or when I go to movies and I'm like, or I write movies specifically, is like, yeah, whatever plot hole pops up, cool, that can be fixed with dialogue.
Yeah.
So like you said, like it's real easy. Or like we were talking about with Grotesque too. I don't know if this was intentional on your part or not, but like cell phones are a big inconvenience. How do we get rid of those fucking cell phones? Camp.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in this case, yeah, it's basically camp, but like get rid of the guns.
One interesting thing I've noticed about Bruce Lee, I have to watch, I've seen the earlier ones a few times, so I'm sure it's not like this rule doesn't 100% apply. But most martial artists, like especially Jackie Chan, they're constant like they fight a lot, but they also get the shit beat out of them a lot. They're always just getting beaten.
It's yeah,
As
back and
Bruce
forth.
Lee in this movie, I don't know if he gets hit a single time. He only kicks ass. Like no
I
matter how many
think that
guys they
was a
throw at
him
him.
thing too. I think that was like him specifically being like, I can't lose in
Yeah.
movies.
Like not even he doesn't even like get punched like when he fights the his name starts with an H, but the white guy with the beard.
Dan Boyle, O'Hara.
Yeah, O'Hara. When he fights him, like the guy attacks him like six different times, like and Bruce Lee just defends each one. Like there's no it's almost like Bruce Lee is maybe that's how his legend was built, is that in his movies, like you can't even get a single hit in on him.
Well,
Like
I think
they
he
will
was
fuck
very
you.
specific about building his legend. Like, I think it's one of those situations where, like, he only told you the things that you needed to know. Like, I think that, did you ever see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up.
I think that was a very realistic-ish portrayal of who Bruce Lee was.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like yeah, he was a tough guy and everything, but it was all a lot of it was show. Like he was an actor, he was a performer, he wanted fame and fortune.
Yeah.
So if he actually just fought big tough guy, he'd probably lose. And that's what they did, is kind of like this was what Bruce Lee's portrayed at, but in reality, he's just a human. He's not invincible.
Yeah.
And because after that movie, like his family were even outraged that they portrayed him like that. Because you're not supposed to portray Bruce Lee as anything other than this
Totally.
immortal guy that can kick anyone's ass. But Quentin Tarantino's like, no, he's human like the rest of us. He's not invincible.
And he could be a prick, like especially if you're at that level of fame and that level of expertise in your field, kung fu. I'm sure you could be a prick real easily. So, like, yeah, I think that was a realistic portrayal of him.
Yeah, it's one of those things too where like no one I'm sure he probably did interviews and stuff way back then, but he died so long ago that like it's like this mythology kind of grew around him. But no
Yep.
there's no like I don't remember seeing interviews with like on YouTube and stuff. Like there's a few things of him explaining his martial arts, but I haven't seen a lot of just like celebrity type interviews or behind the scenes type of stuff. So you never really got to know the real guy. So like everything you know about him is what you saw in a movie or what you heard from someone else.
Do you have any particular fight scenes that you enjoy from this one? Like anyone that stood out for you?
I like his fight with O'Hara. And
That
basically
was a good one. That was a really good one.
the whole ending part where he's just like fighting all the guys coming at him and he gets the nunchucks and it's like,
Including Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan was the nunchuck guy, right?
oh, I didn't even know that. Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, you didn't know that Jackie Chan has an uncredited role in this as I believe the nunchuck guy in the sewers.
Oh, okay, so he was just like he was an unnamed bad guy at the
At
time.
that time, he was just an unknown actor. So I don't know if Bruce Lee came from the same background. I think he did. But when you're a gymnast, martial artist type in China, like that's a thing that you do from birth. Like you essentially go to learn gymnastics at like 5 or 6 years old because then you can really develop your body towards that. So like I know Jackie Chan definitely came from that tradition, and then you learn singing and acting and all these. They take it like very seriously. I don't know if Bruce Lee came from that same background, but Jackie Chan definitely came from that same background where you essentially just go to a monastery and like learn how to be a singing, dancing, killing machine.
Yeah, because Bruce Lee was actually born in America. He was born in San
Yes, you're
Francisco,
right. He was.
and then his family moved to like either China or Hong Kong when he was like very little. So he basically grew up over there, and then came back when he was an adult. So yeah, I'm not that familiar with his like younger days. If I don't know if his parents got him into it or how he got into it, but he took it very seriously. Like he developed his own martial arts, which was kind of
Yeah.
revolutionary at the time. And I think he's still credited as making martial arts popular in America. Because before that, like I'm sure people knew what karate was and stuff, but it wasn't in movies. Like there weren't martial
No, it
arts
definitely
movies.
was. Because like the Green Hornet was the first time Bruce Lee was in
Yeah.
America, right? And then
Yeah,
like Kung Fu was the first time like people really were exposed to like this style of fighting. And then that kicked off this whole like, did Kung Fu come before Enter the Dragon?
I'm not
But
sure.
there was a whole wave in the 60s and 70s where I think people started to learn what karate and kung fu was, and then this whole like wave of movies kicked off of like American made karate films and kung fu films.
Yeah, we'd have to look that up because yeah, I know Bruce Lee was, he basically got shafted out of the lead role of Kung Fu because they wanted a white guy instead.
Because he
So
developed it and they were like,
yeah,
kung fu, it came out in 72, so it was definitely before Enter the Dragon.
what year Enter the Dragon was right around the same time.
73.
73. Okay. I wonder if he died thinking that he was a failure, I wonder. Because he got screwed out of the show and then he died right before Enter the
Yeah.
Dragon, so he didn't know how famous he was gonna get. So he was kind of like mediocre famous.
But that's such an interesting thing. You know what? That's because this story made me think of that too when we first started talking about it. Do you know about Robert Johnson,
No.
the guitarist guy? So you know that story of like went down to the crossroads and met the devil and then
Okay,
he
yeah.
sold my soul and I got the power of rock. That's Robert Johnson's story. There are only four pictures of Robert Johnson that are in existence, I think. Maybe less, only two. But there's like we barely know what this person looked like. We barely know what anything about this person. But he is the guy who started rock and roll. Like he recorded some of the most influential like early rock and roll records that then influenced Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stone. All these guys talk about Robert Johnson and like it always comes back. And like this guy died at 21. Like you know that whole like or 27, sorry, the whole 27 club.
Yeah.
He's like the first member of that because he died at 27 and he died like as a penniless performer going from place to place and performing in clubs and bars and then getting recorded, but he didn't know he was going to have this like crazy fame where like now like I think his song was on the golden disc that we sent out on Voyager into space to like make contact with aliens, which is like it's crazy that this person who was penniless and never knew anything, if aliens ever find out about us, the first thing they'll ever know about this guy is Robert Johnson. This guy who like he would never imagine any of this. And the same with Bruce Lee. Like, holy shit, can you imagine what he would have thought about? Everybody on the planet knows his name. Like everybody on the planet. You go to Tanzania where I grew up into the village in like middle of nowhere. People know who Bruce Lee is.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's just
they made
wild.
a documentary movie about him and yeah, it's
They made biopics about him. They're still making biopics. His teacher Ip Man has a whole series in China of movies about him. Yeah, that's such an interesting point that you bring up that he didn't get to see any of that.
well, not only him, but like his son Brandon Lee was he was shot and killed on accident on the set of The
The
Crow.
Lee curse.
So, he was even young. I think Bruce Lee was like 33 or something when he died. Brandon Lee was
Yep,
like
yep.
28. Their family's been wrought with tragedy, but even Brandon Lee was like he only made the I think three movies before The Crow, and they're actually really cool. Like Showdown in Little Tokyo, like freaking awesome.
Laser Quest. Was it
Laser
Laser Quest or Laser Wars or
like a
Laser Quest? I think it's
laser mission.
Laser Mission.
That one, and then there was Rapid Fire, and then Showdown in Little Tokyo, and then The Crow. And then he
And
died.
that movie's
So,
iconic. They'll never stop remaking that goddamn movie.
yeah, it's well, we can. I don't even know if I watched the remake the other day, and
Did you really? What did you think of it? I haven't seen it yet.
yeah, it's a piece of shit. It's the only credit I'll give it is that it's not as bad as a lot of other reviews I've seen or reviewing it, but it's not as bad as Lucky Day. I'll put it that way. But it's like it is
That's
like
our
one
new
of
bar.
like they should, and then like pe people were right is that in the Crow comic books, there's like a bunch of different crows. Like there's female crows, there's like little kid crow. Like you can always do a different character. So why would you make
Mhm.
it Eric Draven, the guy played by Brandon? Like it's just like a slap in the face to his character. You could have made the same story with a different
You could
guy.
have all sorts of different crows, but like, yeah, I mean, yeah, you could have. It's like Spawn. You have so many different spawns.
Yeah, so like you want to make a movie, like take it in a different direction, tell a different story. Like this guy died making the movie. Like least you could do is honor his
Well,
legacy
it's
by not
like
changing.
honestly, it's like Prey. I think that will be the best way to reboot The Crow. It's just like reset it back into like as far back in history as you want to go, but like Get out of the modern age, go back into the past,
Yeah.
and like tell a story from that perspective. It
Yeah, I
worked.
read a comic series that was like in the Old West, unlimited things you could
It
do with it.
worked so good.
So,
Yeah, it
but
worked for Prey. I think if people want to reboot like a franchise like that, try to go backwards.
or even in the future, futuristic Crow. I don't know,
Sure.
but just like telling the same, yeah, like I mean, I could talk for an hour about how much The Crow sucks because it's one of my movies from my childhood that made me like want to pursue this, writing and movie stuff. Like it's has such an impact on my life, and then someone just makes such a boring, shitty, soulless remake of
Like
it.
cash grab of a remake,
Yeah.
basically.
Like they could have just re-released the old one in theaters again, or something like that, just to like a 30th anniversary reissue on Blu-ray, like something like that, rather than remake a whole movie. But
So
anyways,
what do
back
you think of this movie? Where
to
does
Enter the
where does Enter
Dragon,
the Dragon rate for you?
I would give it 7.5, I'd say.
Okay, I give it a six.
Yeah.
I give it a six. I'd give the martial arts scenes a eight. I really like the fantasy martial arts stuff where like people are flying and there's a lot of like wires and no one can move that way. This is way more realistic, which I appreciate. So
That's
I'll
funny because I don't know if I never liked the fantasy stuff or if I just grew to dislike it, but it
fair
seemed like
enough.
a natural progression. The more you could do, you got Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but then you get to a point where it's like, okay, enough of that. I kind of miss it when it was just like two guys fighting and it's almost stuff like the humans could do. So this is kind of where it all like originated.
That is true.
And
Uh,
I also love I just love this 70s look. I like he's got the big afro. Like it's just like it just looks
Jim
so
Kelly,
Jim
yeah,
Kelly, yeah, just looks of that period.
so good too. I love everything he's in is always great. It's like he's got so much like charisma in his performances.
Yeah, he's definitely a standout in that movie. Although they do him really dirty when he gets
Oh
killed.
man, when they kill him and he gets smacked to death by that like prosthetic iron hand
Yeah,
guy,
not only that, but it's in a room full of women that are
like
like
girls were
laughing
just
at him.
laughing and smoking. I was like, what are they trying to say? Are they like these? Because right before, was it right before that they told us they were manufacturing heroin?
It was right, yeah, right around that
I was
time.
just trying to figure out, like, are they trying to be like these girls are high and that's why they're not
Oh yeah,
noticing
that's
fellas
exactly what
getting
they were.
beaten
Yeah,
up?
they're like
Or
they're all stoned on opium or whatever the hell they're smoking in there, and then just laughing at this guy as he gets beaten to death with a metal hand. It's yeah, it was definitely one of the interesting points in the movie.
they didn't really use the prosthetic hand guy to full effect. Like they gave him a knife later on, but that's about it.
Yeah, and then he had that weird like wooden claw with like the hair on it.
Yeah, that's sorry, not the knife, the claw thing. But that's about it. They didn't really like
Yeah,
do
well, I guess like
much.
in the final scene, he has like his classic one with the blade sticking out. But
Yep.
also another thing to mention is that I don't know if this is the first movie to do it, but the whole Hall of Mirrors thing, like this, I don't know if
Oh
this is the
yeah.
first movie to do it, but that's a thing. Like that must have been so hard to shoot when they're
Oh my
surrounded by
God, I was gonna
mirrors.
say, like it must have been a nightmare to like place the camera.
Yeah.
And like you probably have so many cameras trying to capture how fast, because like one of the true things I think is true is that Bruce Lee moved faster than camera speeds could capture at that particular time, right? And then
Good.
on top of that, you're in a room full of mirrors, just like fuck this guy. Why?
But I remember like growing up there, I think there's like quite a few movies that had a part where they were in a room full of mirrors. Like that became a trope for a while.
It's well, it's such a good way to like, yeah, like if you need them to like hide, if you need it to be disorienting, or even if you just want to be arty.
Yeah, maybe I don't know if this is the first one that started, but it definitely made it iconic.
It's
There's
the first
probably
one
like
I'm trying to think. It's the first one I can think of seeing. I can't remember seeing anything before that.
yeah, not that I remember.
We'll give it to this one. That's a
Yeah.
fact that you can take to the bank.
All right, well, we'll be back again soon for another movie review. You'll have to wait and see what we're gonna do. We don't want to ruin
What
it
we're gonna
now.
review, we gotta decide it. Again, I always encourage you to leave it in the comments. Talk to us about a movie you want us to review, and then we will maybe watch that movie.
We will definitely watch it. All right, bye everyone.
Take it easy.